My name is Gretty Mirdal. I am directing the Institute for Advanced Study here in Paris. I want to say that it is not only a pleasure to welcome you all, but also a great honor that the commemoration of Serge Moscovici is taking place at this institute. And I want to thank the organizer, and especially Saadi, who is an old fellow, almost a permanent fellow of the Institute, for having chosen this place. It is relevant for many reasons. It's relevant because Serge Moscovici almost started his career by 2 stays in 2 different institutes for advanced study, Princeton and Stanford, both inspirations for the creation of this institute. Institutes for advanced study are places where people of different nationalities, different cultures, different languages, different disciplines meet. The whole idea is the meeting, the encounter between people. People who are at frontiers, as Serge Moscovici was throughout his life. So are we here. We welcome about 25 to 30 fellows per year, selected from among 450 applications, distinguished seniors, promising juniors, who come here, and the idea is that they stay here for 5 or 9 months, almost a whole year, which makes the whole difference, because people who travel, guest professors, are often invited for 1 month at a time, but staying in a place for 1 year gives the possibility of creating networks, which was also the case for Serge Moscovici. All his network in the States started from Princeton, when he met Milgram and all the others that later on were for mutual inspiration for both sides. The only requirement here is for the fellows to be present mentally and also physically, to meet others, meet the other fellows of the Institute, but meet the French researchers. We are supported by the city of Paris that has given us this wonderful building. We're very, very grateful for that. Excuse me. Also supports us economically. 12 universities in the Paris area. The Maison des Sciences de l'Homme, which is also a very important place for Serge Moscovici, and a governmental grant that keeps us going. In counterpart, we give the fellows housing and a stipend throughout their stay, so they don't have administrative obligations, they don't have teaching obligations, and they don't have too many economic problems. I'm not going to take too much of your time. I'm just going to tell you to make this a little bit more personal, because it is personal for me, that last night I was reading Le Chronique des années égarées and thought of course, Maimonides, Le Guide des égarés, and wondered why Moscovici accepted the English title that he must have been himself instrumental in choosing, which is called The Chronicle of Misled Years. It's not at all the same thing. I was struck by his displacements, always at the edge, at the border between sociology and psychology, considered a rightist seen from the left, a leftist seen from the right, a Jew by non-Jews, and non-Jew by Jews, Romanian by the French, and foreigner by the Romanians. And I thought that probably most of us here are just as much outsiders where we are. even those who are Franco-French, I imagine, have periods where they feel that they are at the edge, at the border. Here at this institute, we try to make the best out of it, which I think Serge Moscovici actually did. Being a minority, being an outsider, I think, has given him the creativity, the perspective that was different from the majority's perspective, and in many ways meant so much for his work and for what he means for us. In spite of all this, I hope that you will feel at home here and that we will all have a very good meeting. Thank you very much.
So, good morning, everybody. It's a great satisfaction for us to organize this small group meeting. And let me express our deep appreciation to you for attending to participate in this meeting. The meeting is an initiative of European Association of Social Psychology, and this association has also launched other actions in order to develop institutional memory of Moscovici as social psychologist. The association, his president, Ms. Barreto, would like also to attend the meeting. Finally, it was not possible for her. So on behalf of her, we also convey to you the gratitude of the association. As you all know, Moscovici played a key role in the development of European social psychology, or social psychology in Europe. He was co-founder and first president of the association. He was passionate about social origin of things, and among these things, it was also the origin of social psychology in Europe. As it can be read in his book, The Making Modern Social Psychology, written with Ivana Markova. Although we call European, actually social psychology arises from a close interaction with great American social psychologists like Festinger, Lancetta, Kelly, Deutsch, etc. So we really appreciate the great effort that our colleagues from North America have made for joining us at this conference. Their presence here seems to take us to one of those meetings of the Transnational Committee, so important, described by Moscovici and Markova in the referred book. These 2 days, we are intended, above all, to be an act of collective memory, intellectual recognition, and gratitude to his academic work. During this time of organizing this meeting, we have noticed once again the difficult task to embracing the immense intellectual work of Moscovici. It is not intended to be, this meeting, a deep analysis of his thought. Serge actually created genuine research paradigms and even movements of thought. He acted like a real think tank in social psychology. Now, perhaps because my gray hair, I began to realize how difficult it is to create new entries in encyclopedias. In the best, most of us, we simply add a line in these validated entries. Moscovici, every time he picked up the pen, and he picked up it often, did not do so to add a line, but to describe a new phenomenon and creating a new concept. He had a blind faith in the importance of concepts to transform reality. Each lecture was for him a challenge to create a new concept. Moreover, Moscovici played also a foundational role in large number of laboratories and research groups. He supervised numerous doctoral theses, about 60 of them, between 1966 and 2001, an average of 3 PhD per year during his career as professor at the École des Hautes Études en Sciences Sociales. Among these PhD students, we found social psychologists as relevant as Doise, Beauvoir, Abric, Jodelet, just to name only a few very of them, who in turn, they have led so many ramifications in many laboratories in different countries. Many of us here are part of his legacy, but we are just a small sample of hundreds of academics who, in one way or another, have been influenced by their intellectual work. Let me show a small picture of this impact on training research. Yeah, no, okay, thank you. Supervised thesis is not a parameter usually taken into account in the most common rates of scientific impact. However, its role in the evolution of science and universities is crucial. Those who had the privilege of working with him know very well the importance that Moscovici gave to the doctoral thesis, possibly also due to how he worked on his own thesis on social representations, which over time proved to be a key in his consecration as innovator researcher. For 4 decades, Moscovici trained scholars to specific social psychology, resolutely societal in orientation. The fact is that a few days ago, our colleague Nikos Kalampalikis, specialized in the history of social psychology, sent me a list of PhDs supervised by Moscovici. What catch more my attention on this list, it was not the number of the theses, not even the names, but the title of this thesis. Its research questions surely reflect intellectual concerns that Moscovici also had in mind in agreeing to supervise such studies. I think they illustrate quite well the curiosity so unique that always characterized Moscovici. Let me show you a brief glimpse of the titles of this supervised thesis. So, is my translation of the titles. So, culture, as you can, culture, it is image among French workers, the predecision, changing attitudes towards women, games, conflict and social representations, relationship between man and space, the end of close disciplines, some biophysics, the social life of Egyptian women in rural areas, anthropology of domestic and savage, women and worship, say of life of objects in the modern world, epistemological reflection, social theory and philosophical of humanities, the phenomenon of popular splits in the city of Guadalajara, minority and majority strategies of influence, national identity, sociometric status in group of children, the clock and the concept of time, Catholic activism, madness and social representations of mental illness in rural settings, anomic professor psychologist facing their profession, body in the fertile woman, psychosocial effect of computers was in 1986, rock minorities, the national front, myth and everyday life in modern world, the food representation of the food, African American, poverty, negation, and minority influence, the last one from Fabricio. So it is only a more indicator of Moscovici openings to reality that surround him. Finally, focusing in our small meeting here, I want to point out that we have not been able to meet all the demands of participating in this event. The communications to be present will give us a small idea of the diversity and profound and difficult questions addressed by Moscovici in his writings. Social thought against scientific thought, conformism versus innovation, information versus belief, cognition versus knowledge, facts versus values, or methodological issues in the analysis of intersubjectivity reality. In order to organize this conference, we have resorted in the most classical division of studies on minority influence and social representations. But several communications, as we will be able to see, now establish that they are not parallel routes in the thought of Moscovici, but they are intermingled, giving rise to new tracks of research. We have organized the session with the formula brief reminder of the paper and then comment and discussion issues it evokes. Saadi Lahlou will now explain you the procedure that we will follow. But I do not want to close this brief presentation without thanking the Fondation Maisons des Sciences de l'Homme for the support it gives us to organize this event, and above all, the Institut d'Études Avancées, whose headquarters dignifies our conference to the extreme and creates that sacred relationship between space and event. And perhaps our unforgettable Moscovici will say, with the hope that from those 2 days we will leave from here with the impression of having touched the immortality, as so to speak. I reiterate thanks for your participation and assistance. We wish Serge to rest in peace in his well-deserved eternity. Thank you.
Welcome again to all of you. I'm so happy to be here again at the Institute of Advanced Studies. Thank you again, Gretty, for accepting this conference to take place here. It's a great pleasure. Thank you, Simon, who's somewhere in the back, and who helped us so much, and all the team of the Institute. Thank you to the European Association, whom, as you said, Serge was a founder, who funded, co-funded with the Institute of Advanced Studies this meeting. Well, 2 years ago, Serge died. This is why we chose this date, okay? And I think that what we are doing today is another proof that his legacy is growing and continuing. Serge was not only a great man for his ideas, he created a community, several communities, which are very lively. Some of you were a month ago in Marseille in the 13th Conference on International Conference on Social Representations. There were like 450 communications. And this network that he created is still alive, and REMOSCO, Réseau International Serge Moscovici, which is the co-organizer, and has actually managed to set this up almost without meeting physically, which shows that we are now able to be a community without walls, and this is the kind of community that Serge wanted to create and had already created at Fondation Maison des Sciences de l'Homme, ou the Laboratoire Européen de Psychologie Sociale. And indeed, when we organized that, Juan was in Spain, Denise was most of the time in Brazil or in various places, Nikos in Lyon, Thémis, who is going to arrive in Marseille, and all of you who have contributed come from all over the world, right? And we will continue to expand Serge's ideas. I will not go further in the content because that's what you are going to do in these 2 days, but I just want to give you some very quick technical information. Thank you very much. Thank you again to all the participants and the organizers, and I wish us all a very nice 2 days in honor of Serge Moscovici, to whom we owe not only ideas, most of us our career, but the pleasure of being together again. Thank you.